The NFL season is officially here. The Thursday night football game is probably, by the time you're watching this, is either about to happen or has happened already. So Newbie and I are going to be focusing in on Sunday's action. We have 5 games that we are going to be breaking down in detail, along with giving some actionable information, some best bets, some prop angles to take a look at, and to get yourself ready. Because woke up this morning, I saw a bunch of different sports books had a bunch of different offerings on different prop bets for every single game this upcoming week, and I could not be more excited. Newbie, how you doing today?
I mean, it should be a national holiday, man. The NFL is back. As you said, people probably catching this after Thursday night football, so probably you're counting the money on the props and analysis that we gave out on Tuesday's edition here of GoldSheet TV. But it's football from here on out, buddy, and I could not be more excited to kick off the inaugural year here of doing GoldSheet TV and what you do with the great GoldSheet over there at goldsheet.com. I'm pumped up, brother.
Very, very excited again. So those 2 plays, Newbie gave out Jahmyr Gibbs over rushing and receiving yards. I think it was 71.5, and you gave it out. I gave out Montgomery touchdown score. That was plus 115, but we're not going to be focusing on that because we already got that in there. But just in case you still got a chance to get in, let's talk Week 1 Sunday. First game we're going down the schedule: Baltimore Ravens hosting the Houston Texans. CJ Stroud's NFL debut comes against one of the better teams in not just the AFC, but all of the NFL. Newbie, how are you handicapping this one?
I mean, I'll tell you what, man. A lot of people are going to look at this game at 1 o'clock Eastern time in Baltimore and say, what? It's week 1 in the NFL, and we're laying double digits? It's against the Houston Texans. And at risk at my mic being shut off from our H-Town producer, Robert, who does a terrific job, the only way that I would go in this game is lay the 10 with Baltimore. As our guy Teddy Cover says, if I'm playing, I'm laying. And the thing is so often people are going to get scared off of these big double-digit favorites, especially in week 1 when we haven't seen much from either of these teams. But what did we see in the preseason? A lot of questions around CJ Stroud. And if you even just look at the expectations for this Houston Texans team, these 2 teams have very different trajectories for what's going to happen this season. You have a new coaching staff there in H-Town. I think it's going to be some growing pains early, and they're going up against a very well-pedigreed head coach, a roster, a Lamar Jackson who comes in healthy in this game. And also, don't get scared off of those double-digit favorites. Since 2015, double-digit favorites in the NFL, usually there for a reason. It's right around a 60% cash rate if you back them blindly, laying those double digits. It's also a team who has a great home field advantage. H-Town goes on the road. I know it's a lot of points, but I have this game with Baltimore winning by 2 touchdowns. I'm sorry, Robo, but we're laying it with Baltimore to start off the NFL season.
All right, Newbie, I have no opinion on this game, so I'm just going to pick your brain, do a little devil's advocate here. Lamar Jackson was working with offensive coordinator Greg Roman since he's been in Baltimore. But for a variety of reasons, you could argue that it didn't work. Roman run first. Lamar, while not a fantastic passer, definitely a good passer, as we know he can do with his legs. Bringing the new OC Monk in, they add Odell, which doesn't impress me, as you know. But I think Bateman's a good player, and Zay Flowers has potential. Do you think there could be any growing pains for Lamar in a new offense that could scare you about laying 10 week 1? Or kind of like you mentioned, we're playing the Texans and a CJ Stroud who looked like the game was moving a little bit too quickly for him in preseason. But just any concerns on the Ravens offensive front with Lamar having to adjust?
I actually think the Ravens offensive front is going to look a lot better, and they're going to go against the Houston Texans team that, sure, with DeMeco Ryans, they're looking to change what they did on the defensive side of the ball from a year ago. The thing was it wasn't they weren't terrible, but if you just look at their overall grade on the season, they definitely were in the bottom third of the NFL. They were run graded last in the NFL against the run. So this is a team who they're going to go away from just run being their bread and butter, but it's still going to be there. And I also think that Lamar Jackson, he's looking to come out and make a statement right away. You know, maybe he's the kind of guy who listens to the press clippings, who hears the buzz, who hears the talk. So if you're just comparing what these quarterbacks are going to do, Lamar Jackson against the Houston defense that wasn't all that great last year, that has a new head coach and a new philosophy, versus CJ Stroud going against a defense that could be a top 3 unit in the NFL coming into this season, I'm going to always take the better defense at home. I know I got to lay a spot to do it, but a rookie quarterback, a new head coach, there's just a lot more question marks for me. Yes, there's been turnover on both sides, but the question marks are a lot bigger with a team that's really struggled over, the past few years to find some sort of identity. I think DeMeco Ryans is the guy who's going to finally instill an identity, but I don't think it happens in week 1. I think that the test is just a little too tough, and the odds makers are trying to scare people off of laying that double digits. I'm not going to be scared. I'm going to lay the 10.
Honestly, consider me convinced. We were talking about the Texans, between rookies and veterans that they signed, looking at potentially 11 new starters across obviously 22 on offense and defense, which, also is going to take some time to get acclimated with. CJ Stroud, obviously rookie passer, going against a very formidable Ravens defense that, while from a talent perspective is probably the least talented they've been, I'm not in a position to question anything that Coach Harbaugh is doing in Baltimore. And like you said, DeMeco Ryans, he is on a 6-year deal. So one loss week 1 of his first NFL coaching stint is not make or breaking his career. So I'm not going to go and say this is like another preseason game for Houston or whatever. But no, please.
And just last thing I want to say on this is, if this number was 9.5, like, I think people just see that 10 and right away are like, oh my God, if this number was 9.5, you would see a lot more buzz on laying the 9.5 with the Baltimore Ravens in opening week. It's just that double digits scares people off. I'm not going to be scared of it.
Yeah, and I'm honestly in that boat, right? I was honestly going to say, if you show me a 9.5 pop up right now, I'm assuming it gets back to 10, and I would try to get in there quickly. But while it is a double digit, a little bit of that mental game, it also 10 being certainly a key number, a touchdown and a field goal,
of course,
pretty likely scenario. So you do want to get the 9.5 for maximum value. But like you said, the 10's been hanging out, the 10's been profitable, and they could just be hanging at 10 when they really make the game 13, because the 10 is still going to scare away, probably some public customers, even some sharp ones as well, because that is a big number. But just last question on it. Newbie, you expecting this to just close 10, or you do expect this game to maybe close 10.5, 11?
It'll be interesting to see what happens Sunday morning. I don't think there's going to be many people, even sharp bettors, rushing to back the Houston Texans, the unknown quantity. Okay. So I'm guessing this is going to sit right there at 10. It's hung out there all week long. Maybe some movement on Sunday morning, but I would be pretty surprised if across the board, maybe you'll see some 9.5s flash, but I think most places, especially the ones that cater to sharp bettors, is going to stick around 10.
Yeah, and I could see that, because we're talking week 1. These lines have been out for forever at this point, right? It's not like the week in, week out grind where, maybe people are waiting to have some market buyback right at the beginning of kickoff. There's been ample opportunity to get money down. And as we record this on Thursday, maybe you see this Thursday or Friday, still have 48 hours then for everything to kind of resolve itself. So something to keep an eye on. But Newbie's first pick of the season, coming out on a limb, laying the 10 with the Baltimore Ravens. Now, I'm sitting here with probably a harder game to kind of make a case for, right? You have a good Ravens team against a bad Texans team, big number, but you lay the number. I am a big fan of the Steelers this week. But with that being said, I feel as if I'm not alone, and that is also not a great thing, because in the NFL, I feel you do have to be zigging while everybody is zagging. So you kind of do, and there's no sport that encaptures fading the public more than the NFL.
True.
So I'm just kind of on this wave in two facets, right? I think that what the 49ers did in trading Trey Lance, I think, was one of the best things they could have done. And not just because, he obviously wasn't good enough to be their starter, but this is a team that, on a talent perspective, is loaded from top to bottom on their roster. But the entire talk of the offseason was whether or not this guy is going to not even just be their starter, but be QB2 or QB3. They finally got rid of him. They announced Purdy is going to be that starter. But how confident am I supposed to be in Brock Purdy to be the guy to lead this team to the promised land, especially in week 1, when there was so much uncertainty if he was even going to be the starter to start the season?
Yep.
Now, I know Nick Bosa got his deal done. I didn't think that was ever going to be an issue. The whole handicap of this game was expecting Bosa to be part of this lineup. But I'm just going to be rolling with one of the best coaches in the NFL as a home underdog, even against what looks like to be a juggernaut of a team. Now, I haven't gone too deep into it, but newbie, on the surface, what are your thoughts on kind of where my head's at from the distraction of Lance and like the ability for this Niners team with so much hype to maybe lay somewhat of an egg to start the season?
Yeah, and I think there has been, as you said, so much hype up of this San Francisco team. And I don't know if I can quite buy the Brock Purdy stuff just right on, without seeing anything that's done in year two. Because again, what we talked about it when we previewed this division is it's always tougher once you actually have teams game planning for you. And historically, the Steelers have been a terrific game planning team. And to your point as well, you have Mike Tomlin coming into this game. And if you're talking about underdog coaches, there's one guy who always gets his guys up to play, and he can especially get them up to play when they're a dog in week one. Tomlin's 51-30-5 against the number as an underdog in his career. I'm with you, man. And this is a play that I would love to maybe get some extra points, put it in as a teaser. But I think Pittsburgh is live to upset the 49ers, because when it's all hype, it's all positive coming into the season. They got Bosa on the deal. Everyone's flying high. I don't know. I think that maybe we're getting a little bit too overexcited with the 49ers heading into the year. I still think they'll be a player in the week NFC. Don't get me wrong. But in week one, Tomlin as a live dog, give me that all day long, Eric.
Yeah, I completely agree. And that's where I'm going. So two main reasons why I'm also looking at the Steelers. So you mentioned those stats, but this is according to Cleve Analytics. Shout out to TA, the absolute GOAT. In 32 games without Big Ben as a starter, so obviously you have to consider that. He's happily in retirement. The Steelers are 20-12 against the spread, which is a 63% number overall. And as a dog, they are 12-5, 71% against the spread. So, you mentioned that trend for the big favorites. Obviously, you and I are people who are never betting games solely on trends, especially one that's 12-5. You have a 17-game sample size. But while that is not something to blindly bet, it also does, open your eyes to the fact that, this is something that could potentially be profitable, because you're talking about a head coach with whoever at quarterback as an underdog. And we know that Mike Tomlin is one of the great leaders of men in the business, one of the great motivators in the business, as well as just being a fantastic head coach. So now you have a much improved offensive line, which is the biggest problem. And obviously that's going to be a major, focal point going against the Niners defensive front. And you have Kenny Pickett, and I'm not putting too much stock in the preseason, who played well in high leverage situations down the stretch last season. And, again, not putting too much stock in it, but he looked as if he was more comfortable this past preseason, these last couple of weeks. And, he's a young player who is ideally, in a perfect world, ascending. So I just think that Purdy not being really – I don't think Purdy is him. I know Tomlin, what he does as an underdog, especially when at home. And I think that the Steelers are just overall a good football team. So I'm going to, we're putting it on the record for now, because this is what we're going to do this season. We're going to be talking about the bets. I will say Steelers on the money line, but the ideal way for me to bet this, and the way I have bet this, is getting the Steelers teased up to plus 8.5. This is like a dream teaser leg, in my opinion, because you have the low total, which is a good bar for teasers, especially long teasers, because that, assumes the game is going to be closer, and you're getting the key numbers of 3, 7, and 8 all covered in one fell swoop. So I'll say the Steelers on the money line, and I will also say that the Steelers being teased up is one of my favorite looks of this week.
Love it. Yeah, that's a teaser I've already bet, and I'm looking forward to seeing what your other leg might be on that one, because I love that teaser leg for sure.
Yes, sir. But let's go to New England. You got your Birds heading to Foxborough. Should be an exciting one. I mean, there's a couple of things to monitor in this game. Obviously, we have the Patriots. Did Belichick lose his fastball? Is this offense finally going to be good with Bill O'Brien? Then you have on the Eagles side, is there a Super Bowl hangover incoming now that they're playing some good teams with the Birds legit, so on and so forth. I want to hear from you, newbie. Talk to me. Birds, Patriots. What are your thoughts? What are you looking at this?
Yeah, and to your point about the potential Super Bowl hangover, that's something that I think is a little palpable and is a little bit real. Again, it's a small sample size, but we always like throwing out the trends. It's not the crux of either of the way that we handicap, but I like it for historical data to see if something has legs or not. And if you just look at the Super Bowl loser, it has not gone well in recent history. It used to just be whoever lost the Super Bowl, they want to get off to a great start. But now just 9-13 straight up. You saw what happened last year with the Bengals. They're 5-17 against the number, the Super Bowl loser the following season in week 1. And now you're going into Foxborough. Bill Belichick, maybe he's lost his fastball, maybe he hasn't, but he's a dog getting points at home. I know we always joke about me being the homer, but a bet that I loved especially when we were getting the 4.5. Again, it's not a key number, but I always like getting that extra half point. I'm still taking New England getting the 4 here. And if you just look at the WagerTalk Live odds screen, 2 places that take big bets from really sharp bettors in the Superbook and South Point are both sitting at 3.5, which tells me there were some guys who walked up with duffel bags that had a couple of those Benjamins that were putting a bet down on the opposite side here in New England. So for me, man, the other thing is look at what the Eagles did last year. No starter played in the preseason. And then, yes, they were able to put up points on the road against the Detroit team who started the year off horribly, but they almost lost that game to Detroit in week 1. So if history repeats itself, this is going to be a closer game that people expect. It was a field goal game then. I would expect this being a field goal game, but I wouldn't even be shocked if the Eagles lost this game outright. I think this revamped Patriots defense has a little bit more to prove. They were pretty darn good last year as well. Just the equation in this is, can the Patriots put up points? If they're able to possess the ball, if they're able to move it down, if Ramondre Stevenson is able to get some checkdowns and really be able to work that middle of the field, and they're able to chew up clock, this could be a situation where you're looking at a live dog at home. So for me, man, I'm sure people are shocked. They're like, what? This guy, every time he's on a show, he's talking about his Phillies and his Eagles. This Eagles fan is riding with the Patriots in week 1. Give me that 4 all day long. And honestly, maybe even check it at the door and do a little money line sprinkle. I think we got a live dog at home here to start off the season.
No, you make a compelling case. And something that I noted in my write-up of this game is just when you give Bill Belichick extra time to prepare. By extra time, I mean an entire offseason in this case. That's giving one of the best defensive minds and one of the best head coaches in the history of the sport, more fuel to his ammo crate here. A couple of devil's advocate things. This is something where I initially think Patriots plus the 4, 100%. Like, they're not going to come out here. Probably not going to have any plays on this game. But 2 things here. So you have the Eagles, who, like you said, last year came out. They beat a bad Lions team at the beginning of the year by a slim margin. Now you lose the Super Bowl, and now Jalen Hurts does not play in the preseason. I know you mentioned a little bit of concern with that, but how concerning is that to you? Because from what I've read from various sources, again, I'm pretty sure Cleve Analytics as well, that quarterbacks who come and that do not start in the preseason, they, in comparative to their team total, they do a lot worse. They go under by like 5 or so points to their team total, because it's the rust that you would think about has so far over the last couple of years proved to be true. I'm assuming that's part of your concern, correct?
Yeah, it definitely is. However, I'm not as worried about the rust for Jalen Hurts specifically than just what we've come to expect from this team under Nick Sirianni to start off the year. They're able to win games, but they win them ugly. I think Jalen Hurts is going to be more than prepared. I don't worry about him looking horribly or turning the ball over a bunch. I just think that there's going to be some cohesion issues a little bit early, and just the fact that with Jalen Hurts and with Nick Sirianni, it's a pairing that when they go on the road and they're laying a number, they just haven't done well. As home favorites, don't get me wrong, I'm always looking to back the birds at the link, laying whatever the number is. But when they travel, they get on the highway, they get on a plane, just 4-7 under Nick Sirianni as an away favorite. So you're looking at a lot of different situations that line up nicely. If this game was in week 4, week 5, I think I could make more of a case for the Philadelphia Eagles. But to your point, without seeing any of the starters, it's tough for me to go on the road and lay a number at a place that has a good home field advantage like Foxborough. So that's why I just got to take these points It's not really a worry for me about Jalen Hurts. It's more just a worry about me that this team just kind of shows, hey, we start off a little bit slow. Again, the part of the equation for me isn't if the Eagles can get their points. I think, they'll be right around that team total. In fact, in the first half, I like them to go over 12.5 on their team total. I think that rest versus rust is the reason why you're getting them under 13 points there. And I could see them getting a touchdown, 2 field goals for sure. But I just think when push comes to shove, there might be a couple breaks in the armor for this Philadelphia Eagles team that's going to allow that Patriots team to hang around. And when I'm getting over a field goal, definitely give me that at home.
No, I totally agree. And especially like if you said, like if you're giving me the Eagles -4 in week 4, I'm betting the Eagles -4. Week 1, or say it was after a bye for the Patriots, I'm looking at the Patriots because the Eagles have such a mismatch against the Patriots. Let me rephrase. The Eagles' defensive line should be a huge mismatch for the Patriots' offensive line. Should be able to get pressure. That should be a huge thing. Also, historically, Belichick defenses do not perform well against the six-back attack that the Eagles deploy.
Fair.
They're just not great against mobile, athletic quarterbacks because a lot of the players on a Patriots defense in general, they do have some studs littered throughout the defense. They have had some studs littered throughout. But even like last year when they played a lot of bad teams, bad quarterbacks, they ranked really well, but they didn't have any star players because Belichick's system is more scheme-dependent rather than being skill-dependent, where if you're in the right spot at the right time, due to what this play call was, you'll probably be successful. But when the play breaks down and speeds up, they don't have the top-tier athletes to kind of make plays. So I'm not trying to make another case back for the Eagles because I'm with you that I do think week 1, you got to take the Patriots here. But there are some things that I think the Eagles can do that warrants them being 4-point favorites. But I think when push comes to shove down the stretch, we're going to be looking at the Patriots coming within a field goal in this matchup for sure. Moving on, we have 2 more games to take a look at. I'm going all the way over to Monday night. Another situation where I am teasing. I am looking at the New York Jets plus 8.5 as a leg. You could pair that with Pittsburgh if you'd like. I'm probably going to run a couple 2-teamers and a 4-teamer, including Pittsburgh and the Jets, because if I get enough value, that there are value in 4-team 6-point teasers. This one is like NFL is big when you zag. There's so much influence, so much analytics, so many key data points and factors that you could put into a game. And one of those things that you want to talk about that you don't want to like say out loud because it sounds like less important, but you need to actually factor in is it's kind of like a gut feeling. Throughout his career, Josh Allen has not performed well against the New York Jets, and that's in the Buffalo Bills in general, despite winning some football games, being 7-3 in the last 10 meetings, haven't performed overall well against the New York Jets. Now you go from having the worst quarterback in the NFL from Zach Wilson to having one of the best quarterbacks in the history of NFL in Aaron Rodgers, despite Rodgers playing poorly last year. Like, don't mince words about it. He did not play well last year. You can blame it on X, Y, or Z. Fact is, he didn't play well. We've spoken about ad nauseum how this offseason, how we think Buffalo is kind of primed for a step back. And a step back for Buffalo might just be 9 or 10 wins instead of, 11 or 12 wins. So we're not saying Buffalo is a bad football team. But this, from just a, hype perspective, couldn't be a better kind of situation for the Jets to pull off an upset. And the fact that they're not even getting the 3 points, of course, we have a lot of time for Monday for the market to buy us in Buffalo, makes me believe that the Jets are the side. You have the first game of the season after Hard Knocks, and obviously, that built up a lot of hype for the Jets based on where they're from, New York area, then obviously getting Rodgers. But it's also 9/11, which, again, I'm not here to play the straight narrative games, but at the same time, you kind of can't ignore those things in certain situations. And you just have a team that always plays this team from a defensive perspective straight up well, that now has a quarterback that is leaps and bounds better than what they had going for them. And the Jets' biggest issue is they're probably their offensive line, and the Bills don't even have this elite or great defensive line. So I'm thinking the Jets win this game outright, and 8.5 points in the divisional game as a divisional dog in week 1. Please and thank you.
Yeah, I can't disagree, especially with the teaser leg. But now it's my turn to get to play a little devil's advocate, and you take a look at this Jets team. It's been all hype for them. Aaron Rodgers is to town. Look at the people that they're able to pick up. Now Dalvin Cook wants to get in on the action. They have a great defense. It's been all positive, partly because they were the team that was featured on Hard Knocks, and you and I both. I think there's a lot of really smart football minds who think it's a Buffalo letdown year. Now, again, that doesn't mean that they're going to be terrible. It just means probably come playoff time, you see another situation where the Buffalo Jets find a way to falter, and then maybe they have to readjust how they're going. But it's been all positive, it seems, for the Jets. And there's been some negative for the Buffalo Bills. So is there any potential for the Bills to try and wash off the stink of last season and come out with a big statement win on Monday Night Football? Because that could be the way that you could maybe break this game down. While I'm not looking at laying points with Buffalo in New York on, a 9/11 Memorial Night, on the night when Aaron Rodgers finally is hopefully having his come out party for the New York Jets as the quarterback there. I'm just saying, a lot of positive, some negative. Does that worry you at all? That's my best Teddy Covers impression.
Yeah, and it definitely does worry me, right? Like, there are teams that I'm backing this year in this situation, the Jets, and I'm backing the Jets and the Browns in a teaser week one. Like, those are the two teams that are literally like ticking time bombs.
Stinky teaser.
Away. Exactly, that is a stinky teaser. But I'm riding with some more trends. So again, going back to TA Analytics, home dogs in division are 27-17 against the spread in week one since 2000. That's a 61% clip. And they're a scorching 21-5, 81% against the spread, with an incredible +8 against the spread margin since 2010. Shout out to you, TA, for this information, cleveanalytics.com. That's a ridiculous number, bro. Covering within the spread with an +8 margin of the spread. So not only does that mean that the Jets, if they were to win, would be winning this game by over a field goal. Now, if I'm able to tease the Jets up, cover 3, cover 7, cover 8, in a situation where they're winning that margin by additional 8 points. Now, obviously, again, that is a trend. That is just something that has happened. That does not directly correlate to what is going on in this particular football game. But this is the reality of the betting in the NFL. Like, I've been talking about zigging while everybody's zagging, and now here I am backing a team with some of the most hype that's probably going to be a public darling, and I have a lot of sharp colleagues that are big on the Buffalo Bills and think I'm crazy that I'm low on the Buffalo Bills this year. But I'm kind of buying into this narrative that week one, Monday Night Football in New York, Memorial, Rodgers' debut, the most hype these fans have been since 2012 when they were making playoff runs. I just think that it is a perfect storm for the Jets to get off on the right foot, and I'll gladly eat my losses when they lose by 10 and get blown out at home. But moving on to the final matchup we have going on. This is a game where Newbie and I are viewing very differently. We got the Chicago Bears hosting the Green Bay Packers. I'm going to just go out and say it. I'm a fan of the Packers. Newbie is a fan of the Bears. Newbie, talk to me. What is intriguing you about Chicago?
Now, don't get me wrong. I've come on here and beat the drum about Matt LaFleur, head coach of the year. So probably wouldn't help his head coach of the year campaign if he started off with a loss to the Chicago Bears. Let's be real. But the reason why I lean Chicago. So when, just for transparency's sake, when Eric and I were prepping up for this game, we both went down, hey, here's 5 games. If I was putting in a contest entry, here's what would be making my entry. And this was the weakest of my 5 games that I threw Eric's way, is taking the Chicago Bears. And it really is a contrarian spot for me more than anything, because I'm looking at this Bears team looking across that sideline, and for the first time in recent history, not having to see their daddy across from them and see Aaron Rodgers standing on that other sideline, so they know when they go up by 7 points, dear God, we're giving the ball back to the guy who made it a point to make sure he told the fans, I effing own you. So it's a really good motivation spot for a Bears team that they finally feel like this could be a year where they are a player in the NFC, and they're going to be ultra motivated, and they don't have the thought in the back of their head that, oh my God, we just scored, Aaron Rodgers coming back out. No, it's the unproven Jordan Love who's going to be coming out. And they also can ring the bell that they've only beaten beat this team one time the last 14 times that they've faced off. But again, they don't have Aaron Rodgers to contend with. So it's the weakest of a 5 potential slate for me. But I just think it is an ultra slam dunk spot for the Bears to finally get a win against the Green Bay Packers, simply because they don't have in the back of their mind the psyche of this guy really does own us. So if they're going to beat the Packers, it's going to be in week 1 when they have all the motivation, all the health, a home crowd behind them to potentially win and get the stink of this Packers rivalry off of them to start off a year that they have a lot of high hopes for. That's really the handicap for me, is just that added motivation and added excitement that the Bears are going to have. Maybe that peters out later in the game, but if I was forced to make a pick, I would just take that short number with the Bears.
And I completely understand why. Like that's a great point, because like we're talking narratives for the last game, like narrative for this game, like what Aaron Rodgers did to the Chicago Bears franchise over the last couple of years, over the
terrorizing.
It's probably illegal in probably a couple of states. But I'm just leaning toward the Green Bay Packers here, like getting like, for starters, I wish I got this at plus 2.5 in a teaser to tease up to 8.5 with something else I spoke about. I know you were on your game and sniped that early, so I'm jealous of you, very jealous, because I
learned from you. We're the teaser kings, bro. It's what we do.
Yes, sir. It's what we do. Despite last year's teasers kind of sucking to start the season, stuck with them and got back in the green. But just from a roster perspective, the Packers are just, in my opinion, so much better than the Bears. Like, I know the Bears are one of the worst teams in football last year. They had the number 1 pick. There's been so much hype, or not hype, just it's been truthful as well. Like, when you do give a young quarterback a legitimate stud wide receiver 1 to, we've seen them take leaps in their game. We saw the Jalen Hurts with A.J. Brown. We saw the Josh Allen with Stephon Diggs. We've seen it happen. I just don't think that Justin Fields can throw the football. This is somebody who is a fan of Fields. He can't throw. Like the first throw of preseason, we threw it to DJ Moore. DJ Moore took it to the house. The ball was thrown behind DJ Moore. DJ Moore had to make a great play to catch that football, and then obviously won for the yards. So my jury, while not being a Fields hater, is out on Fields. The Packers are familiar with Fields, and they actually do really well defending him particularly. They keep him below his general EPA per play, so the Packers know what to expect from him. And while Jordan Love is this unknown commodity, the rest of this roster is built really well. Like if LaFleur is just calling, quick screen passes to Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, quick slants or run game, and they just kind of methodically move the ball down the field, the Bears don't have a team to stop anybody. They spent a crap ton of money this offseason, but on linebackers that not to boost their edge rush, not to boost their secondary, where they're going to get pressure against this really good Packers offensive line. So my big concerns, though, as I saw today or in the end of the day yesterday, that there were some concerns for Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs. I'm pretty sure the Packers, unknown but 2 probably stud or better receivers. And that does give me pause, because it's tough to have Love working with, absolute no names or rookies. Like that's just a difficult thing to do. But you're giving me a better team in my power rankings at a point. Even with home field advantage, I still make this game at least 3. So give me the Packers on the money line.
Yeah, and again, I think a lot of great points made, and it's not really like I have a comeback, because for me, it's all about just that simple narrative that I try not to bet narratives, but when it's been one that's so exponentially dominant for one side because of one factor, and that factor is finally gone, that's the only reason that this one ended up being a potential head-to-head matchup for us here, but it's probably one that won't make my card either way. I'm just going to sit pretty with my teaser money and maybe swoop in live on this one.
Yeah, Packers for me are looking like something that I want to bet probably at maybe just 1%. I'm looking at the live odds screen now. Sorry, it's over here, so I'm tilted over. But seeing some money at some prominent shops. The Packers actually are laying a point at a prominent offshore now. At the main onshores and offshores, though, they are still getting that +1. And this is something that opened at bookmaker at 3 even. The Bears laying 3 even. So again, tons of time to actually lock in the closing line value, because there's no closing line right now. Maybe you get some current line value, but we'll obviously see how that translates before actual kickoff. But Newbie, any final week 1 thoughts on anything on this slate?
Football is back, man. I'm so happy that we just broke down 5 different games for you, gave you plays in actual football games. So best of luck. Make sure that you're betting smartly. And as always, Eric, make sure you let them know what's going on over at GoldSheet.com, because you want to get in before the season starts. Don't be the one who's missing out and all your buddies are talking about how they're cashing tickets because they bought in early. Be the smartest out of your friends and grab that Gold Sheet, because this year there's more than ever packed in that thing.
Gold Sheet, every write-downs and breakdowns of every single NFL and college game. I cannot recommend it enough, obviously, as a contributor to it. But the team that I work with to get the results that we get is absolutely an excellent squad, and we do a great job.
None. Yeah.
Actionable information that you can bet comes out Tuesdays around noon Eastern, and we want you guys in NFL. You should be betting early to get the best numbers here. As the market matures, it becomes more difficult. So actionable info early. With that being said, a lot of props just started coming in this morning. So Newbie and I didn't have any real prop angles for this weekend. That is something we will work in for you prop bettors out there. We will try to find more prop numbers moving forward. But for now, if you like the content, liking this video and subscribing to the channel is the best way to help us grow. Newbie and I appreciate that. For all Gold Sheet picks, WagerTalk.com or WT.buzz/GS. For the newsletter itself, GoldSheet.com, CKO, and confidential and extra Gold Sheet, all one product now. We want to thank everybody and best of luck this weekend. Obviously, if you're betting and you want to win some money, please bet responsibly. If you're betting pizza money just to have some fun, hopefully you hit a crazy parlay and show us on Twitter. But thank you guys, everybody, and we'll see you guys next time.